I know. Kumo says I gotta be more positive when I start out these episodes, but I just got done talking with our old friend Mike O'Brien. You remember him. He's the guy that runs all of product at Hyundai, and he's our kind of a guy, man. You know, he drives an FDR X7, he's got a pilot's license, an airplane. This is the guy we gotta spend time with. Anyway, as of late, every time I spend time with the guy, he tells me that how crossovers are taking over the world, and he gives me all of this data that he has. This man really likes math. And then he talks about the segment is growing because it's stealing sales from segments like this, the sporty compact segment. Like this, in 2015, not just the Veloster, but all sporty compact in the US was 143,000 units. Now that sounds like a huge number, but it really isn't when you consider that the Camry alone in 2017 sold 450,000 units. This is depressing news. Now you see why Kumo is angry at me. And then it's projected this year alone, 2018, is supposed to be 117,000 units, and it's projected even further to be 100,000 units. So there's no other way to slice this. This is a declining segment. But if you're looking at it glass half full, the way Kumo looks at the world, this is good news because here's a new car in a world of crossovers, and it's not just a new car, it's a new car with a turbo engine, and not just a new car with a turbo engine, but a new car with a turbo engine and a manual transmission. So, really, this is good news, so I'm listening to Kumo, so let's drive a new car with a turbo engine and a manual transmission. So I had to think about this one for a minute because as many Hyundai and Kias that you and I have driven over the years, we have never driven a Veloster together. So this is kind of a big deal for us. With that, we've driven this engine before, however, this is the newest derivation of it. We talked about it in the tech review, where we got some overboost. So let's put our foot into it, second gear. Third gear, by the way, thank you for a manual transmission. And I have to say, it's the same wonderful engine that we've experienced in other Hyundai Kia products. Here, if I'm completely honest, I can't really feel the difference of the overboost. And this is, you know what? Let's stop. Let's come to a complete full stop. Give it a real shot. Okay, ready? Maybe we should drop the clutch. What do you think? Okay, so before we act like adolescents, there's one more very important thing we have to do, and that's hit this button here. Bist du fertig? Echo. That's a Hyundai, folks. Yeah, okay, so overboost does indeed work. It is, you know, we've driven this engine before a number of times. Everything from that Kia Soul Turbo all the way to one of my current favorites, which is the Elantra Sport. And here I have to say, it's as good. Is it significantly better? Does the overboost make a huge difference? No. But that's not saying a bad thing because this engine already had goodness to it. But let's try the sport mode. And now we're in sport. That means that the steering changes and the throttle mapping changes. So let's put our foot into it, staying in third gear. Okay, it's a little bit more responsive. You know, now that we acted like complete and utter idiots, there's really nothing more we can say about this engine in this application. Got it? So a little inside baseball. Do you remember our Hyundai Curb documentary, that two-part episode where I was embedded in the Hyundai design studio in Irvine for 9 months, literally working with the designers there, designing and building the Hyundai Curb concept for the 2011 Detroit Auto Show? Well, while I was there was always a secret project going on. It was like hidden in a corner. They never showed it to me, but they would tease me. They had like this silhouette of this cool looking car that was coming out. And whenever I'd ask them about it, I'm like, oh, what's that? They'd say, oh, it's something different. Well, that something different turned into the Hyundai Veloster. Well, apparently there's something different here in this version of Hyundai Veloster, and that's the B-pillars. Turns out they're not exactly the same. Now, I know I go on and on about the structure of Hyundais and Kias, 52% high-strength steel, all that kind of stuff, but apparently I'm not going to bore you with that today. I'm going to bore you with B-pillars, because the one over there is like, it's here, but the one over here is like here. So they're like offset. It's almost like Legos, but in steel form. Okay, so two rather important things I need to reiterate from the tech review. Number one, the car we are driving right now is the basic turbo, otherwise known as the R-Spec, so it's just a shade under 2,800 pounds. That's good. And number 2, this one is fitted with the multi-link suspension that we first drove in the Elantra Sport, as well as some other Hyundais, and wow, it worked there. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So a couple things we need to understand is, how does it work in terms of driving at high speed, this stability like this? So don't try this at home, and I have to say there is a little bit of lean from side to side, but overall for a front-wheel drive car, even when I disturb the plane of motion like that, there isn't a lot of pitch or squat or even dive when you try to push this thing farther than its limits. And that is a huge function of the multi-link suspension. And one thing I have to point out, again from the tech review, the multi-link is not this two-pronged strategy like they do in the Kona, where they've got the wretched torsion beam in the low version and then this in the high version, or the turbo in this case. It's multi-link no matter what Veloster is on offer. So that is I have to say, that is a huge investment into these compact, sporty world. But let's push it a little bit harder coming around these turns here and see what it's like when we get a little bit more aggressive. And I have to say, it's a front-wheel drive car, but there is some confidence in it. Now, I didn't drive a Veloster on camera with you guys before, but I have driven that car, and it was a bit of a mess going around turns like that. But overall, let's talk some theory here. This would be a great platform to bring something like, I don't know, 270 or so horsepower, and build maybe an in-house racing team and use this as a car, potentially, or a platform for privateers. I think that would be a fantastic idea. Perhaps someone should really jump on that. We've got turtles and I believe koi fish. I think they're koi fish. I am not a fish guy, at least not at a fish restaurant. And they know that food is coming. See, we just stuffed our face at the County Line Barbecue. I know we usually go to Salt Lake and we go see Jaime up in Hill Country, but this time we decided to shake it up a little bit. Santa Maria Madre de Dios, it was fantastic. Even had the Bluebell ice cream and I'm stuffed like a pig. So I figured I'd share some bread with the locals here. And watch this. You think the turtles are gonna be like right on the bread. Apparently they're not. See the fish? They go right for it. Mr. Turtle, get it! Come on, Mr. Turtle! Share with a turtle. See, 3 of them went for it that time. I'm trying to get that one guy fed right there. He's going for it. He's going. At least a turtle. Oh, he got a little bit. Ready, guys? This is turtle food. Turtle power. There go the fish again. These guys, man, I guess it's a koi eat turtle world, isn't it? So we just left the County Line Barbecue with the turtles, and what I now realize are carp. Hey, guys. Okay, as we drive through the stunning roads of the Hill Country just outside of Austin, Texas, one of my favorite places, and not just because of the Salt Lake Barbecue, let's discuss some notes here. First and absolutely foremost is not the Apple CarPlay. It is active sound. Now, this is usually something that we've experienced in fancy cars like M5s and E63S wagons, and oh my God, Santa Maria Madre de Dios, do I still miss that car. Let's go into this menu here. And then you have to go, it's kind of buried, it's over here. You got to go into setup, and then you go into vehicle, and then it gives you active engine sound management. And basically what this is, it's not necessarily artificial sound, it's taking inputs from the actual car. So allow me to demonstrate, and do so by downshifting. We're currently in the off setting, which means it's the natural sound from a 4-cylinder engine. Not particularly bad and not particularly good, just kind of there. Put our foot into it, and it works. But let's go into minimized, and I would call this one very well advertised and labeled because you don't notice a difference. This, you would think it's just the regular engine note and nothing else. Really more mechanized than it is exhaust. Now let's get into normal mode. Now this is where I gotta say I've been playing around with this just a bit, and this you don't hear a difference, it's more of a feel. So let me get downshift, come through this turn, put our foot into it, and it's almost as if someone has turned up the bass. So I'm willing to believe that maybe it's not synthesized sound. It's more giving you the throatiness of the car, kind of like Chrysler does with their SRTs. They don't really increase the decibel level of their exhausts. It's the throatiness of their exhaust, and let me tell you, it works very well in that case, and that's definitely not synthesized. Then let's move into enhanced. Put our foot into it some more, again, downshift in this turn here, and you definitely feel like the bass is all the way up here, especially when you really put your foot into it. So is it loud? Is it hugely noticeable? No. I could take or leave this feature. Then let's come around this nice turn here, put our foot into it. One other huge note that has everything to do with the car we're driving today, this specific one, the R-Spec, it is fitted with a different shift knob as well as the assembly. Let me be very clear here. The linkage is the same, the shifter is the same, the transmission is the same. It just has a little bit more of a fancy feel or performance feel to it by having a shorter shifter, which gives you the feel of shorter shifter throw. So nice touch, and this did come from the previous R-Spec. Okay, now that we got all the active sound and the fancy shift knob and even the regular driving dynamics out of the way, the big takeaway here is the platform, it's good for around town. Is it a GTI or is it a fire-breathing monster that will come with 273 horsepower? No, not quite yet. But it is something that would put a smile, at least from a driving dynamics perspective, around town. Things like going over broken pavement or railroad tracks, or even driving it in a town like Chicago. This would be far more fun than any blah SUV, crossover, or whatever you want to call it. So I had to spend a lot of time thinking about this on the flight back from Texas, but it dawned on me. To sum up the Veloster, one needs to think back to the old saying, don't listen to what I'm telling you, look at my actions. And there are two specific actions that really stand out here. Number one is every single Veloster, whether it's a 2-liter or a turbo, is fitted with torque vectoring control. Kind of a surprise when you think of the car that it is. And number two, and far more important, remember when we shot this car down in San Diego? This one can be had in like a basic vanilla flavor with a very crappy torsion beam suspension. We don't like torsion beam suspensions. However, this one is a fancy one, the Sport, and that has the multi-link unit from the Elantra Sport that we drove, over a year ago in Las Vegas. This we like. Well, every Veloster is fitted with this multi-link unit. So in other words, put the two together, they're saying, take us seriously, take us very seriously, rather than me coming here and telling you this. And does it work? Well, yeah, kinda, sorta. It is a great car to drive around town. It's actually a lot of fun to drive on some of the roads that you and I drove today. However, is it perfect? Not exactly. You can get past its limits, but then again, it is designed to be a car to drive around town. The thing that I took away the most, aside from the don't tell it to me, sell it to me part, is it is an incredible base to start and add 273 horsepower for the coming end, which we will drive, I think, in the fall and definitely on a racetrack, so stay tuned for that. In the interim, I do want to leave you guys with a question, and the question is this. Here is a car that is somewhat sporty, but most importantly, it's a car, people. It's not one of these stinking crossovers. But remember this don't tell it to me, sell it to me thing. If you look at the cargo capacity of the Veloster, it's just under 20 cubic feet, which is more than one of those Honda something HRV. Basically all the yummy mommies buy these things nowadays because they think they have more room. Well, shame on them, the Veloster has more room, and it's a car and it's fun to drive. So my question to you is this. Would that sway you that it actually has more cargo capacity over buying one of these blah crossovers and you're not the bored driving a crossover? And if not, why? And if yes, why not? Or whatever, you see what I'm trying to say. Let me know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV on Word, MotoManTV on Word, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And with that, I want to leave you with one thing. I am still stuffed from the County Line Barbecue. Until I see you next time, bis später. Let's see if we can do a bonus round here. Let's check this out. Let's do it quick and see what happens. See if we can get more to the turtles out here and confuse the fish. Uh-oh. There's one big piece. Uh-oh. The fish are going for it. Turtles aren't getting anything. Let's get that baby fed right there. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Baby.